Bro, I got Kawa back on the show, guys. You've seen him before. He is a rock star out there on Instagram, teaching everybody how to act like John Wick with his super cool shooting skills, but is also one of the most intelligent people I've ever had a conversation with. Kawa, thank you so much, brother, for being back on the Daily Rumble.
Of course, man. Of course. Thank you for having me back. You didn't have to, like, you texted me one time, let's do this. And I was like, I'm down. Let's go. Tell me when.
Yeah,
So always
yeah.
happy to come back here and have some good discussions with you.
Yeah, so a lot's been happening. Obviously, in Iran, the United States started an ill advised war with that country, thinking that it was going to be easy. Obviously, it has not been at all. It's been a fairly disaster economically for the world. But I wanted to focus today on something because you being special forces, long career in the special forces, you would be able to answer this better than most. So apparently, a F-15 gets shot down. The pilot and weapons specialist, the co-pilot, they eject out of the falling airplane. One is rescued day one, and the other one is rescued 3 days later, about 100 miles away, which is odd. Like, how did he end up 100 miles away? Because the parachute's not going to end up 100 miles away, and there's no mention of him, stealing a car and driving 100 miles. So there's that question there. But then the rescue operation, it was apparently near Isfahan, Iran, where the nuclear sites are. And we brought in as many as 250 troops to rescue this one guy. He waited 3 days to turn on his beacon. He said, God is good. And from my understanding, that these beacons don't even have like audio ability, it's just a preset type of thing. What's your thoughts on this? Because it just doesn't seem. Oh, and then apparently he's also a colonel, which a lot of military experts have come out and say, colonels don't fly combat missions. So this is not adding up. They've never released the name, interview, anything from this person. What's your opinion on this whole situation? Was this just a cover to try and secure ground in southern Iran and take that and then like bring in more troops and then try to set up like a fob type thing going on there? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think the to do a rescue mission for a down pilot is very common. We do specialized training for that in different austere kind of environments, mountainous, desert, jungle. And there's different methods of extraction because we plan for this. Like when these pilots do a fly combat a mission, excuse me, a combat mission, we part of the brief that goes into any kind of mission is contingencies. What happens if we get shot down? What happens if we get separated? What happens? So they have contingencies, but not only contingencies for the actual actions on the objective, but they have contingencies for infiltration, exfiltration. They have contingencies for lost communications. They have contingencies for, I mean, there's so many contingencies that get planned that even in this case, where an F-15 goes down, the two pilots get separated by 100 miles. I guarantee that somewhere in their mission brief, they planned for this and they spoke about it. And all the supporting adjacent units that were ready to be like a quick reaction force for this or some kind of rescue entity, they would have been read on to all of that. So they know the people that were in direct support know the routes, infill, exfil routes. They know if there's bombs being dropped, where, and then they also know that, okay, if this plane goes down, it's going to be somewhere in this area on their flight path. So again, all of this goes into planning. When we do mission planning on in this case, kind of special operations level, we plan for everything and anything that can go wrong. And that's why we isolate ourselves in a planning bay for 3 to 4 days, like no phones, no communication with the outside world. Like your wives and girlfriends know, like, hey, you can't get in hold of me. I'm going to be in isolation for 4 days planning. It is to a detailed level of dotting your I that these missions get planned. So when you tell me that an F-15 goes down and the pilots are separated by 100 miles, I'm not sure why they would be separated by 100 miles. And if you're saying that, if they're saying that their parachutes, they parachute obviously out of the plane, but their parachutes probably would have been landing in the same area. I mean,
Yeah.
we have technology that can the GPS guide our parachutes now, like in case the pilot is unconscious. Your parachute has GPS ability to kind of navigate itself to a predetermined location based on what was programmed. So for this other guy to get 100 miles away is kind of crazy. I mean, can you cover 100 miles on foot in 3 days? Yeah, of course. 30 miles a day, not a big deal. Are you gonna be exhausted? For sure. But then you're navigating through all these austere environments, possibly running into locals, so now you have to avoid the locals. You have to avoid being detected. You have to avoid the weather conditions, the maybe wild animals and stuff like that. So there's a lot of holes in this story that make me think that if this went down the way they said it went down, this is piss poor planning in the military. This is the three P's. Piss poor planning is what we say. And whoever was in charge of this mission, they need to get probably fired from their position. And so there's that. But then let's get to like some of the other things you said. The beacon. Yes, when you submit a beacon, it's really like a little homing device. It's there's no communication there. Now he has communication equipment on his body, but depending on the conditions and the weather, depend like how far that communications would reach is we just don't know. Could it reach 100 miles? I don't think so, unless it was bouncing off a satellite or relay stations around the area, which we haven't had established. So yeah, just a beacon would be just a beacon. There is no voice ability there. And then just as far as the one pilot being like a colonel, I can see where maybe a colonel would have the flight status to actually execute a combat mission, but for a colonel to go on a mission, it seems a little unusual because at that rank, he's in charge of like a squadron of
Yeah.
F-15s. He's not necessarily piloting one, so that's a little bit weird too. And then when we get to the actual rescue, and you're saying that we had how many troops? You said like 150,
Some estimates said that there were as many as 250
but there's
troops, which
multiple
I
planes
just
as well,
thought
right?
was yeah, yeah, I mean, you had a
Multiple
couple, what
aircraft.
was it, C-130s, and you had multiple aircraft, you had A-10 Warthogs involved, you had Blackhawks involved, you had Little Birds involved. It just seemed like if you to me, and I'm a student of the military history, I didn't serve in the military, but all of the books that I've read on rescue missions from Special Forces, from Delta, from Green Berets, from Navy SEALs, etc., I've never heard of a rescue mission where they brought in that many people and then landed a cargo plane, not one, but two of them, on a very small airstrip meant for, prop planes and just bring all of this cargo with you and all of these troops to get one person. Usually you're coming
And
in
NBC
very light.
experts,
Yeah.
nuclear experts or scientists as well, correct?
Yeah, that's in it. So the story's not adding up. It seems like this was all about Isfahan, and I honestly, my opinion is I don't believe the pilot was there at all. I think that the whole thing was just a cover. I think the pilot and the co-pilot were rescued in the same area on day 1. And then they kept this going as a cover so that they could try and create a forward operating base near Isfahan, and then they could, set up camp there and they could bring in more stuff and more troops and then create a larger landing strip for the planes. That's what I think they were trying to do, and I think it went horribly wrong, and so they had to bail out of it.
I mean, I could see that as a viable kind of option, but I think with the number of troops and the number of aircraft that we had, this is much larger than an extraction mission where we're trying to save pilots. Typically, when we execute like a down pilot mission, it's usually a couple Blackhawks or a couple Chinooks with like 20 to 30 guys just in case of contingencies. Again, take a small arms fire maybe or whatever. You need to have some firepower and manpower to handle that. But to bring in 200 troops, several aircraft, especially a C-130 cargo plane, or whatever other cargo planes they had to bring in vehicles, little birds, maybe some other fixed wing air above, we call fast movers like other jets, is to me a little bit overkill for a down pilot mission. To me, this seems like these kind of numbers and these kind of assets to me is that we were extracting or we were trying to extract something more than a person. We were trying
Yeah.
to extract maybe something that was equipment, something that was probably nuclear, something that could have been just whatever objective we had. But you don't bring in this many people, this many assets and aircraft for one or two guys. You just
Yeah.
don't. And if you want, you guys can Google different kind of cases in history, Afghanistan, Iraq, where we have done down pilot missions, and you can compare and say, okay, well, this makes more sense. A couple Chinooks full of soft guys makes sense, but to bring in 300 or 200 people with several aircrafts, several rotary, several fixed wing, and then land it doesn't make sense, not to a rescue mission, right? It does make sense
And the
to, it also doesn't make sense to a forward observation base, because if you want to make a forward observation base, you gotta bring in like 5, 600 troops. You gotta bring in enough manpower to set up not only and to not only assault that objective and take it, but also set up an outer cordon with more troops so that you don't have people coming in. You have air above, that's your eyes in the sky. So to me, it's not necessarily to establish a forward operating base or a fire base. To me, it's also too big, too small for a forward operation base, too big for a down pilot. To me, somewhere in the between seems like we were trying to extract something bigger and we failed.
Yeah. So there's another claim from Donald Trump that he watched a damaged helicopter be repaired. That the rotors were literally off of the helicopter, and he watched the whole thing be repaired in 10 minutes.
Impossible.
Yeah, because
You
like
can't even
even if
repair one rotor in 10 minutes, let alone 4. There's
yeah
no way. That's a quick Google search. I mean, you should see the amount of time it takes a mechanic just to change the battery on a Blackhawk, right? And so you're telling me that Donald Trump witnessed it, army engineers or whoever mechanics put a helicopter back together when we saw the footage of how damaged they were is just
yeah.
absolutely insane. There's no way anybody could believe that.
I mean, just think about how long it takes to change a tire or change your oil, right? I mean, you're not repairing a helicopter in 10 minutes when the rotors are
No.
off of it or
That
damaged
just
or
that just
destroyed or
goes
whatever.
to that just goes to support the ill intent of this administration and how easily they'll lie to us because they think we're gullible enough just to believe anything Trump says, especially his supporters. Anything he says, we believe. There's no due diligence. There's no, two source, three source verification. It's just whatever Donald says is what happened, and it just supports the narrative that, or it supports the idea that this man is either in a cognitive decline or that he is misleading the American people intentionally.
Yeah. I mean, even the media is complicit in this entire thing because he's saying this in the media room. You have a room full of reporters, and there wasn't a single one that pushed back and said, wait a minute, sir, that's impossible. Like common sense would tell you that that's impossible. And nobody said anything. It's only independent reporters like us that are reporting on this and letting the people know, which is, why they try to shut us down. I mean, they killed our main account over on TikTok, and that's the fourth one that they've done. And we know who owns TikTok now, and it was because I was literally questioning the video that got us banned over there was because I was questioning the narrative of Donald Trump. And so they just killed my entire account. I just woke up one day and it was your account has been permanently deleted. They didn't pay us the money they owed us. So now we're going to be taking them to small claims court because yeah, you can delete the account, but you still have to pay us money that is owed
Hmm.
because you still sold advertising on our videos. So
Right.
regardless, you still got to pay us. But that's
Good.
that's the point that we're in right now is it seems like the only way that you can get any real news is by going to non-corporate media to try and figure this stuff out because still nobody like I haven't seen in corporate media anybody have this conversation that we're having right now. that this is just a blatant lie. This just does not happen in special forces community, in the military, that you would send that many assets and those type of aircraft to rescue one pilot. And very unlikely that the pilot, like you said, yes, could the pilot walk 30 miles a day? Sure, if he's in really good condition, and I'm sure you as a special forces could do that, no sweat. But you also they're saying he's a colonel, so I'm imagining this guy's probably in his 50s, right? So could a
Yeah.
50-year-old walk 30 miles a day? Maybe. But I'm almost 50, and I can tell you right now, I walk 10 miles and I'm done.
Well, we have to do so we have to be somewhat fair to the situation. Could a colonel who's roughly 45 to 55 years old walk 30 miles a day? I would be willing to bet that if his life was on the line, that he could. And I would be willing to bet that a lot of people could. You don't necessarily need to be in good shape to walk. It does your feet hurt after 30 miles? Yes, I know that from firsthand
Yeah.
experience. But there's something in you that says survival is more important than the pain that I feel right now. So it's the will to live that gets people through survival
But then
situations.
when you think about that's a good point, and I just thought about this. So he walked from where the first pilot was rescued, which was fairly undefended, and he walked to Isfahan, which is heavily defended.
Heavily.
Why would he walk towards the enemy, right?
There you go.
That's just like another question that doesn't make any sense. Like, you would think you would walk the opposite direction. You don't wanna go towards one of the most heavily defended areas in Iran by the Iranian IRCG.
There you go. And yes, and like how do they separate again? Like if they got separated, it's probably because they chose to separate, which makes no sense to anybody. But then you're right. Why are you walking towards enemy enemy lines versus walking away from it? Especially at that rate to cover 100 miles in 3 days. I mean, you're moving, you're moving. You could be moving under the cover of darkness. I mean, to get 30 miles, it takes 6 to 7 hours, 8 hours for people that are out of shape to cover that ground. But yeah, why are you walking towards the enemy? And why are we, you know, there's a lot of holes in this story, but there's a lot of holes in a lot of the stories that they tell us. We've learned that whatever this administration says is either a blatant lie or a heavily twisted exaggeration of the truth. And as far as corporate media goes, they won't touch this because nobody wants to get on Donald Trump's bad side. And they're probably being told on a corporate level by leadership or that they can't ask these type of questions. Do not ask these type of questions. You can ask kind of like grayish, broad questions about the down pilot, but you're not going to ask a question that would be an implication of guilt or negligence by this administration. And so that's why corporate media sucks. They're all kind of trained to ask along a certain line of questioning without asking the actual hard questions. And therefore, we have to rely on independent journalism, people like yourself and others who constantly report, do the research, don't have to answer to the man. So you're free to say what you want. You're free to look and people nowadays, what's great is that independent journalists, unlike corporate media, are showing receipts for things that they're talking
Okay.
about. It's not they're just not there a talking figurehead like what we're doing here. There's receipts being thrown up, screenshots, phone calls, documents, and that's what's gaining a lot of trust within the American people is that okay, this guy doesn't work for CBS, but man, every time he posts, he's showing the screenshots. He's doing the due diligence. And people like us are gaining favor with Americans, mainly younger Americans. You still got that old kind of boomer crowd that's one generation older than us who just, still watches Fox and believes everything the administration says. But fortunately, those people are far outnumbered by the younger generations who are waking up to what this media machine is, which is mainly propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, they had on CNN the foreign minister, a woman from the UAE, and it was just a pure propaganda interview. Like, there was no pushback, there was no questions. They were making the UAE look like it's this utopia and it's just this modern beacon of democracy when they don't even have a democracy. They built their country off of basic slave labor. They have been funding a genocide in Sudan, all kinds of chaos in Yemen, a whole bunch of issues that that country has, not to mention the fact they're deeply aligned with Israel. And there was just no pushback. It was like one of the most disgusting softball propaganda style, Iran is bad, UAE is good, style interviews that I've ever seen out of corporate media. And we've seen this a lot in corporate media, but it just seems like it's even worse nowadays. And they wonder why their rankings are in the tank and why nobody wants to watch CNN or Fox or NBC or ABC. Why? Well, because you guys are not doing real journalism anymore. I mean, you
It's
haven't
just
done
lip
it in
service.
decades. Yeah.
It's just pure
So
lip service.
this is the reason why I tell everybody all the time, like if you're watching your favorite independent creator, whether it's a journalist, a podcaster, talking head, whatever it is, support them. You have to support them because they're going up against the machine, and the machine has billions of dollars, and they are trying to shut down voices from having these conversations. Like I just
I
had
mean,
an
look at Tucker Carlson.
epidemiologist on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Tucker Carlson already being super famous and rich enough that when he got fired from Fox, that he could go and start his own network, you would probably never hear from him because they would try to shut him down. And listen, I still have a grudge against Tucker Carlson. He did a lot of damage while he was at Fox News towards the Muslim community. He helped spread the stigmatisms and all the lies and all the misinformation. But I support him now. Like I was telling my wife, I can't believe this, but I'm actually becoming a fan of Tucker Carlson because since he's left Fox News, he has just completely changed his entire persona, like who he is. And I respect that because he's admitted that, he did a lot of damage when he was at Fox because he was doing what he was told. And now that he is free from that, this is how he really feels. And again, I don't agree with everything that Tucker Carlson says now, but at least I agree with him a lot more than I ever did because I never agreed with him before. And I think once you get out from under that yoke of being under a corporate media machine, you're really more free now to do what needs to be done, which is real journalism. Actually talk to real people and investigate stories and find out facts because that's not what corporate media does anymore.
No, and when he was with Fox, you saw like he was just another talking piece for Fox, pushing all the same little talking points, the agenda, the narrative. And when he left Fox, then he was free to say whatever he wanted. And that's as the Tucker Carlson network started to grow, he became more emboldened to speak the truth. And you saw how quickly he was demonized, villainized by all the major networks, all the way up to Trump himself and the administration. It's because they no longer can control this man. As long as they can control you, they're okay with you working within your parameters. But as soon as they can't control you anymore, they have to demonize you because, well, you're going against the narrative now. And that's why Tucker Carlson gets called Tucker Carlson, and like they're saying he's taking money from Qatar, he's a Muslim, he's this, he's that. It's like, no, guys, he's actually free. He freed himself from the propaganda machine, and now he's speaking the truth. He's taking trips to the West Bank. He's going to all these other places, speaking with people, things that the corporate media would never do because, whoa, that's, like we don't want to hear what they have to say. Just keep feeding them this stuff. And that's why the more emboldened he's become to speak the truth, the more they've villainized him and they try to now, paint him as this anti Semite, someone who's taking money from Qatar, all these things. And it's not just him, it's just that Tucker came from Fox, so he catches the most heat. But that could have easily been Candace Owens. That could have easily been some other people. I mean, you saw Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, they were okay with Charlie Kirk as long as he was pushing Judeo Christianity. But the moment he woke up and he started questioning this and questioning that, Israel, Zionism, APAC, Palestine, genocide, that is when you start to saw people like he started losing Israeli donors. He started getting, uh, he started kind of getting attacked here and there by certain conservative talking heads. And then at the end, the poor guy got killed, right? So this is what they do to people that they can't control. This is what they do to countries that they can't control. This is what they do to foreign leaders that they can't control. This is the typical playbook that is part of this entire operation, is not only to make sure that we have control of our own people, that we have control of foreign people, because if we don't, then there's room for error and there's room for questions. And with more questions comes more truth. And so this is the playbook, man. We do it here just as much as we do it overseas.
So, circling back to the military aspect, I wanted to ask you this. Pete Hegseth has now fired over a dozen top generals in the military, even some special forces guys. I'm hearing reports that the morale in the military is at probably the lowest point it's been since the Vietnam War. Are you hearing that from your friends that are in? And what do you think about Pete Hegseth's leadership and what he's doing? As much as you can comment, because obviously I don't want you to get into any issues with that.
Well, so I'm in kind of a I'm in a place where there not a lot of bitching and griping happens, complaining happens. However, I have plenty of friends in the conventional army, in the conventional Marine Corps, other places, and yeah, the morale is low. The morale is low for several reasons, though. It's Nobody wants this war. Not even the troops on the ground want this war. Certainly not their parents want this war. The way that we are posturing on the Strait of Hormuz, and we have basically thousands of Navy and Marines on these ships, just sitting there without a resupply. They're eating scraps, their toilets are clogging. Like, there's no morale, because how can there be morale when you're every hour, you're just like, okay, it's about to kick off. They're about to attack us. I might die today. Like, how can there be morale when you're in these conditions that are really more to the detriment of your mental health, your physical health than anything else? So is the morale low in the military? I would say that the morale is low for the military, especially those that are involved in this operation. But overall, the consensus in the military is more so that this is a war that nobody wants, and it's a war that is by choice, not by necessity or by a forced kind of reaction. And yeah, morale's low, right? Because if Donald Trump just came out to the US and said, "Look, Iran is bad. We need to attack them, and when we do attack them, we have this whole thing planned out all the way to a regime change, all the way to the installation of a new government or leadership," the American people would probably have been like, "Okay, we're down for that." Right? We're down for that. But when you go there and the very first thing you do is bomb a school full of 170 children, and you kill all these girls, and not only do you drop one bomb, but you drop three bombs. Okay. One
Yeah.
in the schoolyard, one near the prayer house, the prayer room, and then another one. So you triple tap a school. That from the get go is not a first act of war. And that doesn't sit well with the American people. And then when you
Yeah.
continue to say, well, the whole purpose of this is regime change, and okay, so you killed Khomeini, but then his son is now the new Ayatollah, and you haven't pursued anything there, right? And then you shifted completely from the regime to now the Strait of Hormuz, which, by the way, was open before we went there, open to all, no tolls, no fees,
Yep.
and you shift it to like, well, now we got to open the Strait of Hormuz, and if that doesn't happen, we're going to obliterate an entire civilization. That doesn't also sit well with a lot of the military, because the military would be on board if we had an actual objective, like for example, Iraq. Iraq was about getting Saddam out of power. That's why everybody backed it. We knew Iraq wasn't part of 9/11. We knew Iraq wasn't on those planes. They weren't. What did Iraq do? Right? But Saddam was somebody that stopped playing with us a long time ago. So we had to come up with a reason. And when we said, look, we got to take out Saddam for weapons of mass destruction, and by the way, he's killing his own people and this and that, the entirety of America got on board with that. The problem
Yeah.
is that whole regime change and villainizing somebody to that level has been played out, right? Over the last 25 years, it's been played out. So now when you say to the American people, we need regime change, we got to take out this Ayatollah, people were hesitant, but they were like, okay, like, let's take out the Ayatollah. Maybe that'll be better for the long run. But then you shift from the Ayatollah to the Strait of Hormuz, and now it's all about the Strait of Hormuz, and it's about oil. And then you're sitting here talking about Iran did this. They opened the strait. They gave us a bunch. They're sending ships with oil. They're sending ships with uranium. They've accepted a peace deal. They've asked for a ceasefire. Every one of these has been a lie. Every one of them. And this war has only been going on for about a month and a half. And already the American people are tired of the lies. They see right through it.
Yeah,
So
I
I would
mean,
say, so
you
I'm just
you
going to finish this up with morale is not only low in the military, but morale is low as an American population who doesn't want to see war. And not to
yeah, you
mention
see
the secondary tertiary effects that are coming back home, gas prices, grocery prices, and everything else. Everyone's morale is low, not just the military.
Yeah, you see, like Donald Trump says, open up the Strait of Hormuz or we're going to destroy an entire civilization. And then he puts his own blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. Like, what strategy is this? What are we doing here? Are we playing a game of chicken with Iran? Because, all the military analysts told Donald Trump, this is a war you do not want to get into. This is not Venezuela. This is not Cuba. This is not Iraq, right? This is Afghanistan on steroids. It's bigger, 10 times the population, just as mountainous, and they have advanced technology. Do not
Yeah,
do this. And he did it
Iran
anyway.
is 3 times bigger than Iraq. It's 4 times bigger than Afghanistan. Afghanistan's population is 30 million. Iraq's population is 40 million. Iran's population is 90 million. 10 million
Yeah.
alone in Tehran, and another, I think, 8 million in Isfahan. Now, imagine us doing a ground assault on 10 million people. Oh, but wait, it's not just the people, Mike. Don't forget that Iran has a military that's about 500,000 strong. They have an IRGC that's about 150,000 strong. And they have a Quds force that's about 100,000 strong. And then on top of that, as if that wasn't enough, they have the Basij, which is the Basij is their reserve military, and that's 20 million people. That's 20 million men and women that are ready to fight and die for this country. Nothing about this war makes sense. None of the objectives make sense. And none of our actions that we have taken place in these last 4 to 5 days makes sense to the objective that we were told. And that doesn't even make sense to the objective now, which is obviously the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, during the Afghan war, my stepfather was stationed over there and he was with military intelligence, and so they would do these war games. And really the only option that the United States had if it was to try and do any type of a ground invasion with Iran was by holding Afghanistan. Well, we don't hold Afghanistan anymore, so that option's off the table. Trying to do it by sea through the Strait of Hormuz is impossible, not going to happen. Every war game scenario that they played out was an absolute disaster for the United States. And then just even being able to hold a single city inside of Iran every single time they would lose. And I mean, you were in Afghanistan, you know how hard it was there, and you're fighting against people in flip flops with AKs and some RPGs. Imagine now doing that against people who have modern technology. They have, ballistic missiles, they have cruise missiles, they have supersonic missiles. They have drones. They've learned from the war in Ukraine how to destroy modern militaries with low cost drones that are hard to shoot down.
Yeah.
It's a, it's
Not to
a,
mention they
it's a,
have the support, they have the logistical support and backing of China and Russia,
exactly. I mean, who was supporting the Taliban? Nobody. They were supporting
Pakistan.
themselves. Pakistan a little bit here and there, but even then, I mean, it wasn't with hypersonic missiles, right? It was like we'll supply you some AK-47 rounds and some RPGs and some landmines and stuff, and that was an
HME
extraordinarily
material.
bloody, difficult situation for the United States to be in. One, because of the terrain, and Iran's terrain is very similar to Afghanistan, so it, it's just a losing strategy to go to this war with Iran. This is the dream of Benjamin Netanyahu. He has said it. This is his dream to finally have the United States attack Iran. But here's my conclusion from everything that I've been seeing with Donald Trump. Donald Trump got into this war thinking it was going to be a quick, easy victory because of the protests in Tehran, that he would take out Khomeini, and all of the sudden, the Iranians would rise up. They would welcome Pahlavi. They would reestablish the king of Persia, accept him with open arms, and they would just give away all of their oil to Israel and the United States, and it would just be this fantastic celebration. That didn't happen at all. You have
They
united.
wanted a repeat of 1953
Yeah. And
when
now
we staged a coup.
you've done is you've just united all of the Iranian factions, even if they were against the government. Now they see what cooperating with Israel and the United States brings you. It brings you death and destruction. So they've just united the population. And so I think right now Donald Trump wants out of this war. He wants to declare victory. He wants to back out of it quietly. That's why he just announced an indefinite ceasefire, but then he said, we're ready to go back to war. I mean, it's all over the map. But I think realistically, what he wants to do is, in my opinion, Donald Trump has always been a bully, and bullies always pick on the weak. They don't want to pick on somebody who can punch back. He picked on somebody who can punch back. Now he wants to back down, and he's already turned his attention to Cuba. He wants a quick, easy victory in a small, tiny little island country that can't defend itself. And in that way, he can, declare himself this war hero. He's already talking about giving himself the Medal of Honor, which is absolutely crazy for a draft dodger to even say that. But apparently, that's what he's saying. I think that what's gonna happen is that Donald Trump he's gonna just keep this ceasefire. There might be some little strikes here and there, but I think he's just hoping that everybody in the entire world, especially in the United States, is gonna forget about it, and he's slowly gonna just pull these naval ships back off of this blockade and kind of declare victory and surrender at the same time. And what that's gonna mean is Iran just became a superpower. And it became a superpower because it took on the United States and Israel, and it survived. And it also shows that all these GCC countries, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi, they're all in trouble now because they coordinated and helped the United States and Israel attack Iran. And so now Iran is going to have bloodthirst against these countries. I hate to see that amongst Muslim countries, and I hope that that doesn't happen. But that's my fear, is that a lot of these countries are they're going to be in the crosshairs of Iran now, and the United States is not going to be there to save them. A lot of them are already looking to China now and saying, "Hey, China, let's be more friends than we already are," because these Americans, they're not doing a good job at protecting us right now. So I think the U.S. dominance in the Middle East, this attack on Iran, may have just cost the United States long term.
And I agree. And you said a lot there. So like I will reply with, everybody criticizes how Obama made a deal with Iran for their plans. So the GCPOA deal between Obama and Iran was a very good one for everybody, honestly, in retrospect. Now, maybe at the time I didn't think it was a good deal, but now in retrospect, it was a very good deal. I mean, we got everything we wanted from Iran. We got transparency into their nuclear power plants. We got IAEA inspectors in there and that also reported back and said that Iran is in compliance and has been in compliance. And we unfroze their money, which probably was one of the biggest talking points for Obama. Like people that don't support him said, "Oh, Obama sent them 90, or however many, like 120 million or something like that." It was a big number, but it was really a lot of money that was frozen. That was their money anyway.
Yeah.
And now you got Trump who tore up that agreement. So then Iran went back into refining uranium and they stopped allowing IAEA inspectors in there because why should they hold up their end of the deal when Trump just tore it up? Right. And so they're free to do whatever they want at this point. There is no deal. They're a sovereign nation. If they want to build nukes, guess what? They can build them. Now, if we get to a place where we have a treaty with Iran and say, look, can we do a JCPOA version 2 where, you guys show us what you're doing there and then allow the inspectors to come in. At the same time, we'll unfreeze some assets. But that's not what Trump is saying. Trump is saying that we'll give you the entire Strait of Hormuz and we'll give you $90 billion, way more than Obama gave them, to basically end this war. And
Yeah.
has all the leverage. They don't need to take $90 billion from America. They already control the Strait of Hormuz, you know? Iran has like all these conditions that they want to be met, but America is never going to meet any of those. Like America is never going to pull out their military bases from the Middle East. Let's just face it. That's never going to happen. right? And then as far as what you said, as like with these other countries, these Arab countries, the Arab League or whatever, I mean, Iran knew from a long time ago that countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar were in cahoots with the US, right? You also have that whole Sunni versus Shia thing, right? So let's not forget there's a lot of history, there's a lot of tension between Iran and the Arab nation states. And so the Arab nation states kind of turned their back on Iran a long time ago. In fact, in 1953, when the CIA Mossad staged a coup in Iran and took out Mossadegh, and we implanted the Shah Pahlavi, and then he reigned for 26 years and he oppressed his people, killed them, starved them while he made himself and all his friends rich. That 26 years of oppression has stayed with Iran. They haven't
Yeah.
forgotten that. We did that to them. Okay, so they have, but again, even though they have this grievance with us that goes all the way back to the 50s, Iran could have done a lot of damage in those last 50 to 70 years to really make America pay for not just for the what they did in Iran with installing a Shah, but even after 1979 when Ayatollah was there. So Iran has a lot of legitimate grievances with the US, right? But they still maintained a good demeanor as far as attacking anybody, right? And now that Iran attacked all these different countries, it's because these countries are permanently associated with Israel and America. Let's not forget that Saudi Arabia will forever be embedded and in bed with America and Israel. Qatar, UAE, all of them because of the Abraham Accords and all this other crap that's been passed. But I would maybe disagree that Iran would retaliate against these Arab nation states, not on an official level. I mean, if we're talking about proxies and militias, of course, we do that. We have Al Qaeda, we have ISIS that work for us. Saudi Arabia has the RSF, and then all these other countries have their militias, right? So that's going to continue. But then they're probably going to take that and use it to now again push this thing that Iran needs to go. They're a threat to America. They're a threat to Israel when they've never been a threat to America. They've always been a threat to Israel. And by just sheer association to Israel, we feel threatened, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. Israel is the one that pulls us into this. They're the ones that pulled us into Iran. They're the ones that pulled us into Iraq. And so this is what they do. Who's going to control who really controls Trump is a question because you're saying Trump doesn't want this war. I don't think Trump knows what he wants. I think Trump is being told what to do left and right by people who do not have the best interests of this country at heart, nor do they have the best interests of the economy at heart because this isn't about oil, bro. Like it's about banking, the petrodollar, which obviously is including oil, but it's not purely about oil. It's about the expansionist state of Israel taking care of a threat that would then get in the way of them expanding into Syria and Lebanon and other places. They have to get rid of Iran in order to continue their expansion into southern Syria and southern Lebanon. And Iran is the only thing that stands in the way of an expansionist ethno state like Israel. And when Israel feels threatened, they call on their big brother, America, to come do their dirty work for them. So Trump is not in charge here. Let's not fool ourselves. Trump can bark all he wants on Truth Social and all that, but he's not in charge. That's why he doesn't have a plan. That's why he can't even speak about it in a cognitive kind of way
Yeah.
because he's not in charge. He's being told what to do. He's
Yeah.
an actor on stage.
Yeah, and that's why I say I don't think that he wants this war. I think, like you said, Israel 100% pushed this war. Marco Rubio basically said it. We knew that they were going to attack, so we had no choice. We were getting sucked into it. He tried to backtrack that later, but he already let the cat out of
They
the
all did.
bag with that. And I think with Trump, he doesn't want this war because Trump wants to be seen as a hero and not a loser, and we are not winning this war in Iran, and that's the only reason why he doesn't want it. If it would have been a quick victory, he would have loved it. But the fact that there is no good outcome here in fighting a war with Iran. Basically, the only thing that you could do, in my opinion, to defeat Iran is you would have to drop nuclear weapons on it. Period. You'd have to take out every one of their major cities with nuclear weapons. and annihilate at least half of their population, that's the only way that you would perceivably be able to end this war, and that's not an option. So,
No. Or a
I mean,
ground
even if
invasion, like a full ground invasion.
oh
You would
god,
have
that
to have
would
like a
be
full ground,
horrible.
but even then it'd be a slaughterhouse. It'd be a
Yeah.
bloodbath.
I mean, you're talking about Vietnam 2.0 with that. I mean, that's even probably worse
Well, because
than
some
Vietnam
there's some
was.
people that say, well, look at how we look at Iraq. We took Baghdad 3 weeks. Okay, but you're missing context. Like Baghdad and Iraq and Saddam's Ba'ath Party and his military was in shambles by the time we got there. It was falling apart. It was brittle. It was easy to break. You're talking so you can't compare Saddam's army to Iran's army. Saddam's army was falling apart. Iran's army is very centralized and very powerful and organized and unified. This is
Yeah.
not gonna be like Iraq where we go take Tehran in 3 weeks of a ground
Plus,
invasion.
the terrain was completely different. You're talking about flat desert, no way to hide your troops, no mountains to bury your bases in. And then you contrast that with Iran, and they have bases buried miles and inside of mountains that are impenetrable.
I mean,
So,
look at
even
Afghanistan. Afghanistan had no
yeah,
military. When we
yeah,
went into Afghanistan, it had 0 military. But how come we didn't win Afghanistan, right?
terrain.
Is because the Taliban are the people. We don't have to like the
Yeah,
Taliban, but guess what? The people of Afghanistan look at the Taliban like, okay, we don't necessarily like these guys. They're not ideal, but man, they're the ones that are kind of keeping us safe and keeping other wolves at bay, you know?
yeah.
So
I mean, that's
we
like
couldn't
I hear that a lot.
we defeated a brittle Iraqi army in 3 weeks who was an organized army, but we couldn't defeat a people in 25 years.
Yeah.
And what we're both saying
I
here, Mike, is that Iran, the people of Iran, support the regime that is there now. So, therefore, if the people of Iran actually stood up to fight Americans, you're talking about 90 million people that are down to die for the cause.
yeah. I mean, even the more secular Iranian people now, the polling has come out saying that they are even though they didn't like the Ayatollah, they don't like the regime government there in Iran, they are 100% willing to die for their country, and if a single Israeli or American troop steps foot, they will fight to the death to defend their ancient Persian land, and that's how they see it because yes, there's that the Sunni Shia divide and all of that, and then there's the Islam perspective. But you also have to understand that what we call Iran is an ancient empire called Persia. They have a very long history, much longer than Israel or the United States combined. We're talking about thousands of years of
Or Europe.
culture and identity. Exactly. And so this is not a people that is just going to fold like, in Venezuela, where we can send in some special forces and kidnap the president. And there's not a lot of pushback from the people. Well, because the people, they're not as culturally connected to their president as the people in Iran are to Iran, right? And so I think there's that aspect of it as well. I mean, you would understand this better than most, being that you are Afghani ethnically. It's it's a culture in that region of we will die for our land. This land is our sacred home. And if you come here trying to take over, whether you're Alexander the Great or you're the British or you're the Soviet Union or you're the United States, we will fight you with stones, sticks, AKs, whatever we can get our hands on. Like it's not a culture that can be dominated. That region has never been dominated.
No, I mean, the Middle East has always been tribal. Historically, the Middle East has been very tribal. Afghanistan has been very tribal. Afghanistan is like a good example because when there is no foreign invaders or occupiers in Afghanistan, who do they fight? They fight themselves, right? The tribes are fighting themselves. I mean, look what happened after the Russian invasion. When everybody left, what did Afghans do? They started a civil war. You had Afghan warlords fighting each other in different regions for power, influence, and all that. But as soon as the US stepped foot back into Afghanistan, what did all those tribes do? They said, "Hold on.
Unite.
I know we have differences, but we have a bigger problem that is not part of us. So let's all come together and let's unite to fight the oppressors or the occupiers. Iran's the same way. If we didn't touch Iran, they would always have their little tribal feuds, the secular feuds. But the moment we step foot in Iran, all of that division goes away, and now you have a unified people. And
And
that's
the
just, I
biggest
mean,
propaganda or the biggest unifier was the fact day one we kill 170 schoolgirls.
that's it.
Like
But we didn't stop there, Mike.
Iranians,
We were
yeah,
supposed to
Iranians
only
are never
target
gonna forget.
military and government installations, and we have bombed in double digits hospitals and universities and now infrastructure. And you got Trump talking about bridges and water plants and whatever other infrastructure. I mean, even if I just took Donald Trump for his words, he's talking about destroying the infrastructure to this country, which is going to put millions of people without power, water, food, and it's going to have those secondary, tertiary effects. But But we've already bombed these places. It's not just words. We've taken action
And you
against the
yeah,
people
you
of
think
Iran.
about we bombed the tallest bridge in the Middle East, and then he goes on stage and he brags about how he was able to so easily take this bridge down. That bridge, apparently, I didn't know about it until it happened, but that bridge is like a national achievement. And so you just smacked every Iranian civilian military, every citizen of Iran, you just smacked them in the face. It was bad enough you kill a bunch of schoolgirls, you're attacking hospitals, you're attacking this, but then a national treasure, a national moment of achievement for the Iranian people, you bomb that and then brag about it? Like hearts and minds, have you ever heard of that? And what are you
No,
doing
we
here,
suck
Trump?
at hearts and minds. We suck.
Yeah.
America sucks at hearts and minds. Let's just face it. We failed in Vietnam. We failed in Korea. We failed in Afghanistan. We failed in Iraq. We failed with hearts and minds everywhere we've gone in modern times. Let's just stop talking about hearts and minds. That's not even our intention. We're not going to Iran to win hearts and minds. If we did that, we wouldn't have killed 170 girls in the first day. We wouldn't have bombed double-digit schools and hospitals. We would have stuck to military targets. We would have stuck to government facilities, and that's it. And we would have went the extra step to make sure that we would not produce any collateral damage, and that maybe would have gotten some Iranians on board with America coming in there to make some changes. But no, that hearts and minds is not our goal, bro. Never been.
And I think that one of the biggest mistakes of this entire thing, I mean, the whole thing was a mistake, but allowing Israel free run to do bombing raids in Iran was a horrible mistake because I don't know for sure, but my guess is a lot of these attacks. Now we do know for sure that the bombing on the schoolgirls was the United States. That's come out. But I think a lot of these hospitals that have been targeted in soft structures like that, schools, etc., that has gone beyond the initial day one strikes. My gut feeling is that's Israel doing that because that is their modus operandi. That's what they do, right? They love to target these soft structures of civilization because their mindset is we don't want to destroy them for now. We want to destroy their future. We want to make sure that they don't have schools, they don't have higher
Right.
learning, they don't have
It's the Gaza
hospitals.
treatment.
Yeah, the Gaza treatment, they're doing it now to Lebanon. So I think even just allowing Israel to be a part of these strikes has been a major blunder by the United States because they don't play with any rules at all. They violate all
But
the rules. That is
who's
their
gonna
rule.
stop Israel?
That's the
Who's gonna tell Israel to stop it? They're always the wild card in that region. They've been the wild card in that region ever since even since their inception. No one tells Israel what to do. Trump will sit there and tell Israel and on a post and say Israel will stop all bombing campaigns and they will stop the aggression and escalation. But what does Israel do an hour later? Just as a few to Trump, they bomb Lebanon. They bomb somebody else. This is you're right, this is their MO. So who controls Israel? Because even if we got Trump under control, how does Trump control Israel?
yeah.
That's the big question.
And the problem is they control their lobby controls our Congress. So It's a much bigger problem, like you said, it's a much bigger problem than just the president. It's the entire span of the federal government and many state governments as well. Like we were talking off air about the state of Texas and how Greg Abbott is under their thumb 1,000%. This I mean, even whether it's you're talking about Republicans, Democrats, you look at Gavin Newsom. He's the poster boy for the 2028 presidential run. The Democrats are gooing over this guy. And he has said so many times that he is a staunch supporter of Israel. Like, why does that have to be a part of your politics? Like, do we do that with any other country in the world? Like, is there any political candidate who's like, I am a staunch supporter of the Philippines and I will continue to defend the Philippines until the day I die? No, you never hear that. It's
And
only
they
Israel.
don't even say it for their own country. When's the last time a congressman said, "I am a staunch supporter of the American people, and I will unconditionally support the American people until the day I die"? When has any American politician said that in recent times?
Yeah.
And they're
It's
part of a
very rare.
game.
Like, you can't even get them to say that now.
You can't
Like,
even
you'll
if I
ask them.
like there's the videos, right? There's the videos. They go to the Congress, the halls of Congress, and they're like, "Hey, sir, America first or Israel first?" And when that guy hesitates to answer, that tells you all you need to know. It's
Everything.
not that these people necessarily want to support Israel, but they have put themselves in a position that they have to support Israel, or it's a career ender for them, right? And that's part of the deal with AIPAC and these other Israel lobbies. When you take AIPAC money, when you take Israeli lobby money, you are pretty much saying that you will do whatever and say whatever in support of Israel. And if that means that you shut up and not even answer a simple question like America first or Israel first, then that's what it means. So at different levels, their support for you and their funding for you means different things to them. And it's this is not a conservative thing. This is not a liberal thing. It's not left or right. This is why I continue to say that the left and right are dead, because 338 members of Congress out of the 535 that we have are bought and controlled by AIPAC or other Israeli lobbies. So how can they have the genuine interests of American people when their career hangs on the line from an Israeli donor or an Israeli lobby? And it's not just APACs, it's all PACs. Let's not like just isolate APAC. They are the biggest Israel lobby, but you got like CPAC, you got all these other PACs that have a lot of like millions and millions of Israeli donor money. And that's why these people are taking this money and they're like, no, I don't take money from APAC, but you're taking money from Israeli donors. And when you do that, you are now being held hostage or your career is over. What do career
Yeah,
politicians
and
do when their careers are over?
yeah, you look at it like it's not even just the outwardly supporting of Israel pacts. If you look at the military industrial complex, they're all controlled, the CEOs and the boards. Who's controlling all of them? They're providing money to our politicians and they're not overtly, pro Israel pacts, they're military pacts, but then those military pacts have beat people sitting on the board who are from Israel. And so they've infiltrated so many different things, and now we have the
That's what it
AI
is.
bros, which are in the same league, and they're pumping in millions and millions and millions of dollars to our politicians. This is why we got to get guys like Dan Bilzerian in there. And I know that there's some pushback. People like, oh, I don't like Dan Bilzerian. He's a playboy, he's a womanizer, he's this and that. You know what? I don't know any politician that's not like that. So how about we at least just agree to find one politician, one person who we know for sure will never take any money from Israel or any other foreign country. And he has proven that by costing his own company, his own personal wealth, millions of dollars by speaking out against them. How about we get guys like that in there? Tony Aguilar, how about we get him into Congress? The
What do you think
Marine who
about
just had his
Fishback?
arm broken. Again, I think Fishback would be better. He's not my ideal candidate, but I think he would be 1,000% better than the governor of Florida right now. 100%. And I think, you know, I have a lot of people on the left that watch my show. I have people on the right that watch my show. In the comment section from the left is always, how could you support this person like a James Fishback or like a Dan Bilzerian? They're against a transgender. They're against this. They're against that. And I tell them all the time, like, well, pick your poison. Which one do you want? Do you want somebody who's going to sell out your future and your children's future to a foreign country? Or do you want somebody who doesn't agree that men should be playing in women's sports? I'm going to go with the guy who's not going to sell out our future to a foreign country. I'm sorry. That's just my stance on it. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm just an American, and I'm going to vote for the best candidate that has long term interest. I think James Fishback would be 1,000% better of a governor over Florida than his opponent and the current governor.
This pendulum has swung so hard. Like during the Obama days, the pendulum swung so hard to the left that eventually the pendulum has to swing back. How far it swings back depends on how far it swung to one side, right? So when we have 8 years of Obama, and you have a lot of conservatives that are tired of that, and you have some liberals that are also tired of that, the pendulum swung pretty hard back in the other direction, to the point that we elected a man like Trump to office, right? And so this is a swinging of the pendulum. It's now Americans are so tired of Israel. They're waking up to AIPAC. They're waking up to what Israel does, the amount of influence that Israel, the Israeli lobby, the Zionist movement has here in America, that now the pendulum in that aspect, in that arena, is starting to swing. And now what you're seeing with younger up and coming politicians is a different war cry. It's not the "I unconditionally stand with it's Israel." It's the opposite. It's 180. It's "I unconditionally am America first. I don't take AIPAC money. I will never take AIPAC money." And a lot of young and up-and-coming politicians who now I've started kind of discovering across the country on social media is standing up and saying it. They're saying, "I don't take AIPAC money and I never will." That's great. That's great. This is a political swing of the pendulum because AIPAC and Zionism has dominated our politics since the early 1900s. But now, finally, for some reason, and I still kind of attribute this to October 7th, and I say that all those Palestinians, they didn't die in vain, that they
Yeah.
died waking up the world, not only to what Israel is, but also to the influence here back home. And therefore, these young up and coming politicians now understand that I have to be America first. I can no longer be associated to this Zionist movement. And I love seeing it. I love seeing it. I hope this momentum continues. I will happily support any Democrat or Republican or even a Green Party person, independent, that says I am America first and I will not take foreign, let's just say foreign instead of Israel, foreign lobby money. Dude, I will vote for you. Okay. I will support you as much as I can. But here's the thing, you have to maintain that on every ladder of this career that you climb, every rung of this
Yeah.
ladder. So at a city level, county, state, Congress, Senate, whatever presidency, you have to continue to have that same war cry. Otherwise, we as your constituents will vote you out of office. If you turn on us
Exactly.
at some point, we will hold you accountable and we will vote for the next person, because I'm telling you, this shift, this changing of the tides in politics that is kind of swinging away from AIPAC, Israel, and Zionism is happening before our eyes today. Let's just hope it keeps going.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at there was a Democratic convention in Chicago last week where the pro-Israel candidate got up on stage and she was booed off stage. The entire arena just erupted in boos and traitor and everything, and she had to walk off with her head held down.
If that happened on
And then
October 6th, Mike, sorry to interrupt, but if that happened on October 6th, she wouldn't have got one boo, you know?
exactly. Exactly. Like
Everybody would have been
everybody
cheering
is
her on.
has waken up and her I wouldn't say he's anti-Israel, but her opponent that is anti-APAC, I believe his name's Abdul Saeed or something like that. He gets up there and the whole crowd just erupts and cheers. And so it just goes to show that being pro-Israel, it's not popular anymore. It's not popular, and it's going to hurt your candidacy. And so I tell people, what listen, if you're a Republican, I'm an independent, and I'm always be an independent. I'm not going to affiliate with one party or the other, because then you're corralling yourself into some set of politics that you might not agree with. Be an independent. If you're going to go vote for a Democrat, if you're going to go vote for a Republican or a Green Party or whoever, you should have a litmus test. And that should be number one, is your priority America or a different country? It could be Israel, it could be Congo, it could be Guatemala, it could be whatever. Is your interest our interest, or is it some other country's interest? Because if it's somebody other's country, then I'm not voting for you, because I need to make sure that my roads don't have potholes in them. I need to make sure that the power works. I need to make sure that we have clean water, clean air. I need to make sure that, my kid's school is going to be fully funded. I need to make sure that my grandkids are going to have something to be proud of and happy of, and have a good life, because I'm not going to be here forever. So it's my responsibility to make sure that that's your primary interest. And are you being transparent? I want to see, like, where's all of your money come from? Has it come from the military industrial complex? Has it come from Miriam Adelson? Has it come from
Ellison.
APAC? The Ellisons, exactly. Where's your donations coming from? And I think that that's why I like Mamdani. I don't like all of his policies. I don't agree with him. I probably agree with him on maybe 50% of his policies. But if I was a New Yorker, would I have voted for him? Absolutely, because look at
Absolutely.
who his opponent was.
Right.
His opponent didn't care one iota about New York City. Nothing. And in fact, the previous mayor just went to Israel and did a big hoo-ha there in Israel. And then he moved, I think he moved to some other country and just got voluntary citizenship of a country in Africa, because he doesn't want to come back to the United States. So this was the previous mayor that Mamdani took over for. You can tell Mamdani loves his city. He's out there going and doing home inspections, making sure that the landlords are taking care of their tenants, and he's out there shoveling snow. You didn't see this from was it Eric Adams, right?
Adams.
You didn't see this from Mamdani's opponent. So yes, I would have voted for him, and that's why I tell everybody, vote for the person, man. Don't vote for
The
the
party.
policies so much, or the party. Vote for the person. What do they stand for? Do they stand for what we stand for as Americans, or do they stand for corporations and foreign governments? If you do that, we'll have a better government. If you just vote party line, it's just going to be the same old garbage in 10 years, and we'll still be having this conversation, which I hope we're not. I hope we're not having this conversation in 10 years.
I agree with you, man. I think that, and to caveat, it's not just holding politicians accountable for where their money comes from lobby wise, but also corporation wise, right? I mean, we have people who own companies like Fox, Meta, Palantir, OpenAI, Elon Musk's Tesla, SpaceX. These are corporations that have also been infiltrated by the Zionist movement. So that's why Larry Ellison and his son own Fox and 20 other subsidiaries of Fox, but they also bought out TikTok, and they also give a lot of money to Israel every year. So yeah, they're not politicians, and they may not be part of a pack, but they have corporate money that is also going to these people. So we're holding politicians not just to account for where their PAC money comes from, but also what corporations are you lining yourself up with? Because if Mamdani said, like if Mamdani said, well, I'm New York first and I'm against this war and he won all these people over, then I would vote for him too. But if I found out that Mamdani works very closely with Larry Ellison or Zuckerberg or Elon Musk on these corporations and he's getting muddy through these other places, that puts him right back in the same spot. So there has to be not just the lobby, but the corporations. We have to hold them
Yeah.
account to both. And then what you're saying, Mike, is to vote for the person and not for the party or the political affiliation would imply that you are being nuanced. And I would suggest that people that are listening to this apply some more nuance in their lives. You cannot sit there and bandwagon for a political party or for a certain individual. You need to, if you're going to bandwagon for anything, you need to bandwagon for the principles that the Constitution have given you, that the principles that you stand on that put America first. You bandwagon for that. And now you're looking at these candidates, left, right, center, green, whatever, and you're saying, which one of you are prioritizing these principles? Which one of you are prioritizing America? Okay, you are? Okay, well, then you need to show us that. You need to run on that. You need to make that statement and say it over and over again so we believe you. And then you need to also take the actions that are needed to. So there's nuance. I don't support Mamdani on some things, I mean, free grocery store or state-run grocery stores, I don't necessarily agree with that. But the fact that I don't agree with that doesn't mean I hate this guy. And also, if I was a Muslim and then Mamdani's a Muslim, I'm not going to hate him just because he's Muslim. I want to look at what policies he supports, what he stands on, and what actions he's taking. And so far, everyone who's criticized Mamdani, even Donald Trump himself, after Mamdani's White House visit to the Oval Office, now all of a sudden Trump is like, oh, he's a great guy. He's doing great things in New York, you know? When before
Yeah.
that office visit, Trump was talking about deporting this guy and finding a way to deport him, right?
Yeah.
So we as Americans, we see this theatrics and we're like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? I don't know who to believe. Well, I would say to judge the person by their actions and be nuanced. Don't hate him because of one thing. You can disagree with one thing, you can disagree with 10 things. But if he's doing 13 other things right, or if he's doing another 10 things right, then how can you sit there and be like, "Well, I'm against Mamdani because he's a Democrat." Okay, but he's also doing things that you agree with. So we need more
Yeah.
nuance in this country. We need to stop bandwagoneering for people. We need to stop being tribal and just letting, you know, these different sides kind of suck us in emotionally, where then once you're emotionally attached to something, it's very hard to break away from that at that point. And that's where most of MAGA sits and even some conservatives.
Yeah. I mean, and you have the same side on with the liberals too, where they just get,
Right.
sucked into this. It has to be ultra left wing, have to have LGBTQRXYZ in every single debate, every single conversation. And it's like, okay, look, 99% of the US population is not on the LGBTQRXYZ thing. We have bigger issues that we need to deal with. That can't be your only politics on the left. If that's your only politics on the left, you're just going to lose. And it can't be your only politics on the right of MAGA being we need to deport all brown, black, and Asian people from the United States, whether they were born here or not, whether they've been citizens for 100 years or not, doesn't matter. We need to get rid of all of them. America is for a white Christian country only. If that's your policy, you're going to lose, right? That's not a popular policy because what is the number one thing that most Americans care about? How am I going to pay my rent or my mortgage? How am I going to afford groceries? How am I going to afford healthcare? How am I going to retire? Am I ever going to own a home? Can I afford to have a kid? These are the things that everybody's actually thinking about on a day to day basis. And when these politicians get stuck in this far left, far right spectrum, they end up losing. Look at that lady in your state down there in Texas who is all about deport all Muslims. Muslims are
Valentina
rapists and
Gomez,
murder. Yeah, she lost in a landslide. She didn't even come close, right?
twice,
She
I
was
think.
no like nobody in America knew who her opponent was. Everybody knew who she was, and yet she still lost. So despite all that vitriol and all that disgusting rhetoric that she put out there to make a name for herself, Texans didn't want that.
No.
They didn't vote
And the
for her.
UK
I mean,
didn't
she
want
did.
it either. The UK just banned
Yeah,
her this month.
yeah. So they're like, and then she got absolutely annihilated in social media, which was just funny over that. But it just goes to show. Listen, here's the thing, and this is one thing that you're doing with Modern Exodus. I know you're a part of that. We talked a little bit about that. I want to touch on that and throw a plug in for Modern Exodus. Is that the representation of everyday average Americans is really not there with the Republicans, the Democrats, corporations, etc. And a lot of people are looking for a place to go. They're looking for a community, that with the right wing nationalists kind of generated towards TPUSA. That has fallen completely apart. I mean, they can't even sell out their own events now that Charlie Kirk is gone. A lot of people are looking like, I want to go to a place, I want to be a part of an organization that's not racist. It's not religiously exclusive to just Christians or whatever. And I want to get back to a framework of manhood and stuff. And so you guys all kind of came together. A few of you guys came together and you've started this Modern Exodus. You've already had an event. I think you guys have another one coming up here. Lots of people joining the group. The Discord you said was just, flying all the time, 24/7, people getting to know each other. What is it about Modern Exodus that people should know that don't know what this movement is right now?
So one I would recommend to look up Modern Exodus on Instagram and check out the page. The Modern Exodus was put together by Ian and Clyde, and they asked me to come on as well. And I think the total there's like 6 of us that kind of decided to take this on. We decided to start an organization that is not politically affiliated with anybody, that's not religiously affiliated with anybody, that's not ethnically affiliated, but this is for any American, any religion, any skin color, any ethnicity, any American who is tired of not having that representation down on a local level where their needs and their concerns are not being met by their politicians or maybe even some of the municipality leadership in their towns. So we decided to start this organization where Americans can we can identify each other, because it's not just me that feels this way, Mike. It's not just you that feels this way. It's probably millions of Americans that feel this way. They felt
Yeah.
this way for a long time. They just didn't know what to do about it. A lot of people DM me in my social media like, Kawa, the country's up. What do we do, man? How are we going to fix this? Right. And that's such a hard question to answer as an individual trying to address another individual. But when I have 30, 40 men sitting in front of me and they're saying, what do we do? What do we do about this? Now it's like, well, hang on. Let's understand what our strengths are first, right? We have, for Modern Exodus, I think we're sitting at about 1,000 members now, maybe a little bit over 1,000. And these are guys that want to take tangible action, right? They want to organize. They want to. So again, first identify who else is around me that feels this way. Okay, cool. There's 6 of us in this town. Okay, well, the 6 of us, let's get together and let's have some meetings, and then let's tie those meetings into like Kawa, Ian, Clyde, the bigger organization, and let's find out what is it on this level that concerns me. That could be anything from your municipality and something you want to address on a city level. That could be state or county or federal. But eventually, what we're doing is we are organizing and we're massing in numbers of people who are like minded, who feel the same way, who want the same things, regardless of their race, religion, or skin color. And they're coming together now to organize and organize not just in numbers, but organize in objectives. What is it that we want to tackle first? Do we want to start small? Do we want to go big? Well, we don't have to exclude ourselves from either one of those, right? Let's establish the footprints across the United States. Let's build these numbers and get to a place where the 50, 60 people in Dallas, Texas can now go and actually make a presence and make a difference somewhere, whether it's legislation or whether it's, codes, whatever it is. So that's what Modern Exodus is. It's a place for men who are just tired of mayors and governors and Congress and presidents lying to us and constantly making our lives worse gradually. And we want to do something about it, except that we didn't know as individuals what to do. But now, as a group, we are starting to understand what we can do, and we're going to start taking action. And that's what Modern Exodus is. And all men are welcome. And right now, unfortunately, it's only available to men. Eventually, hopefully, maybe down the road, there will be something for women. But right now, it's just men, because we understand that the men are the driving force in any nation, right? And if there's going to be change in a nation, it's going to be with men. The men need to understand how strong they are. The men need to understand how much power they hold, and that you're not just a man who is going against a grain, but there are ones like you that are around you that can help you stand up, prop you up, support you, and be there for you. And now we become inevitably a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
And we're
because I
not a
mean, if you look
militia.
at
And let me point this out. We're
yeah,
not a militia. We're not training. We don't have training camps. We don't shoot guns all the time. Like me being a Green Beret, it's just something that I bring to the group because everybody loves to shoot. And so I put on our first meeting was in Dallas. I put on a quick range day. The next morning I did a tourniquet class, and then we had some really good discussions on things that we need to get done for the next step. And now we have our next meeting at the first forum at the First Forum headquarters, which is a huge event. I personally can't be there, but there's already like 100 people signed up. So we went from our first meeting of 20 to our second meeting of 100, and our next meeting will probably be in the hundreds. So we're going to grow for sure. If you guys want to check out Modern Exodus, please go to the website or go to the Instagram first to kind of look at the aesthetics and see if that's something you want to do, and then go to the website and sign up. Join us in Discord. We have meetings all the time, live sessions, and we bring people on stage so that everyone can be heard.
Yeah, I think like it is critical to for people to understand that this is not a, it's not a political organization, and I'm not actually affiliated with it, but I love the idea of it. But from all of that, I talking to you, I've talked to Ian a little bit, trying to get Clyde on the show actually. So it's not a militia, it's not a political organization, but your stance is very strong Second Amendment advocacy, and so
First
I
Amendment.
think that this is very. Oh yeah, sorry, First Amendment. This is very important for people to understand that being able to organize as men, being able to be the phrase I'm looking for here is like just being men again, like being able to go out and be confident in yourself, right? That comes from training with certain things, right? Whether it's, with firearms training, medical training, first aid training, having those skills and those abilities just makes you more confident, and that's going to make you more successful in your life. But that's not all there is. Like, men should be involved in politics. You should know what's going on in the politics. So if you're a part of an organization that is also pushing politics to get parties in line with the American people, then you're going to stay more informed, and then you're going to be able to have more impact, right? I mean, if that makes sense, like if I just go and I lobby my local county to fix the potholes in my road, probably not going to get anything done. But if 150 of us show up at the county office and say, hey, this road over here needs to be fixed. It has gone on too long and we are sick of it. More than likely, you're going to have a crew out there the next day fixing those
Exactly.
potholes. And so I think that what you guys are doing with Modern Exodus, it's much needed. And again, you have Muslims involved, you have Christians involved, you have atheists involved, you have, there's no religious component to
Democrats,
it. Like,
Republicans,
right,
white,
liberal,
black, Hispanic.
conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's,
we are purely an America First organization who is not just voicing our concerns, but we're about to take some strong action in different parts of the country to make some real differences.
yeah, because that's the thing. Like a lot of people have said, "Oh, the America First." That phrase has been tainted by the MAGA movement, etc. And I like it's only tainted if you allow it to be tainted. Because if you're on the left and you hate the word America First or the phrase America First, then don't support Mom Donnie because he said it. He is America First. He is here for New York
New
City.
York
Like
first.
even for
Yeah.
him, it's like on a micro level. I am New York
Right.
City first, right?
Yeah. He
and
said it
and
several
then
times.
America.
And
So
he's fixing
the
potholes, by the way.
exactly. So America First is not a right left issue. It's something that everybody on the right and left should want. We should want American tax dollars going here to fix here because we have so many problems that need to be fixed here. So yeah, I think that's great, man. Keep pushing that, and hopefully I'll be able to, as you guys are able to grow and stuff, I'll be able to pop up to one of the events and stuff as well. So guys, if you want to check out the Modern Exodus, like you said, I'll leave a link in this video. If you're seeing it on IG, I'll tag it in the video so you guys can go and check that out. So finally, brother, I just wanted to say, your special forces. I have a lot of military families or people that are thinking about going into the military right now. If somebody was wanting to get into the military, despite everything that's going on, hopefully this is going to get worked out soon and we won't be at war with Iran. But if they're wanting to go into the military and they're wanting to get into special forces, what advice would you have as we wrap this up for them? Because I get this question a lot.
Yeah. Hang on. My camera is kind of tripping out on me here. It's like, okay. The advice that I would give for anybody, because I get this question all the time on my socials, is people DM me like, "Hey man, like, can you give me some advice? I want to do." This is exactly what you said, Mike. My advice in general, let me just start kind of broad picture is I love our military. I highly support our military. I was in the Marine Corps, I was in the Army, I've worked with Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. I've worked with all of them. And our military is an amazing organization full of love, full of support, full of good careers. I mean, job security. And then it's a nice resume builder. Even if you don't make it a career, you can get out with 4 or 5 years in the military and get a pretty decent job out in the civilian sector on top of some free schooling that'll get you more accreditations, bachelor's degrees, maybe masters, right? You can get a master's program for free. And so I would say to join the military for a few things. One, personal development, discipline. Okay. If you're going into the military, you're probably going to pick an MOS that suits you, something you're passionate about. Again, and then what that gives you at the end of the 4 or 5 years, or in my case, at the end of 23 years, is it gives you a strong chance of landing a super amazing job later, or maybe even creating your own business because now you have the expertise. So I support anybody that wants to join the military despite what's going on with Iran, okay? Don't demonize our military because of one man's actions or one administration's actions. It's not our military's fault that we're in Iran right now. And I get questions as well as, well, what's your advice? My advice is go join because you could do 3 years and get out. You could do 4 years and get out. I mean, when I first joined the military, the Marine Corps, I thought I was going to do 4 years and get out. I was like, I'm going to do 4 years, get out, get a free master's program somewhere, and then go get a dope ass job. But then when I, 3 years later, 2 years later, I realized, you know what? I really like this. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. And maybe I'll make this a career. Maybe I'll stick in a little bit longer. So do that. But then also for you men out there who are in the army now or thinking of joining the army because of special operations or special forces or the Navy SEALs or Marine or MARSOC, I say go for it. Because if you're going to be in the military, then there's no better place to be than in a special operations unit. Okay. It's big boy rules. You get a lot of funding, you get a lot of cool equipment, you get a lot of cool missions, and you get to meet some really cool agencies and kind of counterparts overseas, whether it's intel or tactics or whatever. And honestly, man, it's just my 23 years in the military has been amazing. Amazing. Despite all the times I deployed and I fought and all the kind of negative aspects, the overall experience I've had in the military is outstandingly positive and good for me and my family and everybody else that's involved. So my advice is go into the military, do a couple years, get out, go to school for free, get a badass job, or you may love it, make it a career, and then and then that's it. But don't not join the military because of what Trump's doing. Don't not join the military because of this war in Iran. And again, it's not our military's fault that we are part of conflicts. Our military is just the action arm for any conflict. So, soldiers and sailors are taking orders and we can talk about whether those orders are, lawful or not. That's a different topic. But for the most part, the military is one of the best places to be, even for a young 20-year-old female or male.
Yeah.
So all the benefits you get, the free schooling at the end. I mean, come on, guys. It's kind of a no brainer, especially if you are in a place where you're kind of lost and you don't know what to do. A couple years in the military will do you wonders, not just for career growth, but personal growth. So hopefully that
Yeah, and I
answers the
think,
question.
like, if you join the military, try to have a plan of what you want to do. For example, one of my best friends, his son-in-law joined the military and he ended up becoming an engineer in the military, working on helicopters. And when he got out, he got like $165,000 a year job in the private industry, right? And so all of his education was free. He got paid while he was doing it and he loved his time in service. He actually wanted to go into special forces, but his wife was like, "No, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
a
want
tough
you. I
life,
don't
that's
want
for
you
sure.
having didn't want you to do that." But yeah, I mean the benefits of it are amazing, discipline, etc. Like I said, I'm not military. I did go to military school when I was young. I was introduced to it. My stepfather was military. I took a different path going into construction and some other things. But I can tell you right now that everybody that I know that's come out of the military that actually applied themselves in the military. Now, there are people who don't apply themselves in the military as well, and they don't really benefit from it. But if you apply yourself, it's fantastic. But just go in there for the right reasons, have a plan, and make it happen. And yeah,
But even
So,
after you get out, Mike, even after you get out of the military, there are programs in place to help prop you up for success. Whether that's a technical program you want to pursue, whether you want to start your own business, if you're looking for grants, if you're looking for easy money to borrow that sometimes you don't have to pay back at all. Dude, the military has all these resources. I just we just got a bunch of used furniture from a warehouse in California that donated a bunch of furniture for us to give, to a family, and so there's all kinds of programs, guys. I mean, if you want, like, a working dog, there's a program that will give military families a working dog. If you want furniture, if you want a job, if you wanna build a resume, if you want just money to start a business, did you know there's a program that'll give you $50,000 just to start a business as a veteran? Just
mhm,
they'll just give it to you. You have to look for that
yeah,
program in your state because 'cause they're all state-run programs, but they're all federally funded. And so there's a lot of
yeah,
things that military veterans don't know after they get out because when they get out, they're just like, "Man, thank God I'm out of the military. Now I'm free. Now I can go do this and that." But I mean, from free healthcare to free money for your business to free graduate school master's programs, dude, the military for a young 20-year-old is almost a no-brainer these days. So,
yeah. Well, guys, I
I
hope
should
you
be a
enjoyed
military
this, and
recruiter.
if you did, you should. Make sure that you guys follow my man Kawa here. I'm gonna leave links to his social media as well, and check out the Modern Exodus. Thank you so much for being here. Hit that subscribe, like, and share this with everybody you know. As always, stay safe, stay free.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.